Hi, welcome to Racehouse with me, Jolie.
And me, Darren Reeves.
It is the Qatar Grand Prix 2023 review and highlights. We've just watched it. And, well, there were some moments in there. It's not my favourite race. There wasn't too much going on. But look, the big news from this weekend, Max is the third time world champion. Congratulations to Max. And again, this dominance is running through this season with Max's performances. He did it in the sprint race, so for those who saw that, and that was enough to get him the world championship. So that wasn't enough. He won today as well. So again, it's kind of strange. You're watching the race and you kind of forget about Max. Okay, he's going to go and win that, and we're kind of looking at the second, third, fourth, fifth. So that's how I saw it. What do you think, Darren, about the race?
Well, I have to say, I really like the track. I think it's got some really fast corners on it, and I think that the story of the weekend, other than Max, of course, was the dust on the circuit from the desert. And when we saw Alonso go off, the amount of dust that was on that sort of escape road, I think really because of the twitching. I don't think I've seen Formula One cars twitch as much. So there's lots of things to get your teeth into. But like you say, the overriding story is Max Verstappen, 3 times world champion, with the greats. He's matched Senna, which I think they all want to do. I don't know the track that well, so I feel I've learnt a lot about it this weekend. The dust that's come off the desert and the amount of twitching that the cars have been doing all weekend, it must be so difficult to drive. And the heat as well. We've just seen Logan Sargeant throwing up in his helmet and having to retire from the race. So the difficulties that these drivers have to deal with is phenomenal. But the story, as we well know, is Max Verstappen this weekend, 3 times world champion, matching that of Ayrton Senna, which I think is the one they all look up to and want to. And of course now, gunning for Prost and Vettel with their 4 times, Fangio with 5. And Michael Schumacher and Lewis with 7. But who knows? Max is a bit unpredictable as well, isn't he? Whether he'll carry on for 7, 8, 10 more years. He's only 26. He could run away with this as long as the car allows it. But I like this circuit. I'm looking forward to more races over the next 10 years there.
Yeah, it's a great circuit. I said, in the previous episode, I've been there. But it's a completely different feel now. I'm sure they've upgraded all the facilities. They relayed the track. I love the Qatar maroon color they
Mm.
have. It's that purpley maroon. Looks feels so luxurious. Actually, I think it's a luxurious color, and it's all over the track. And yeah, you're talking about dust and things, which was coming up. I mean, it was like a lunar surface almost.
Yeah.
There's pictures of Sergio Perez there, basically on the moon. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic track. Let's see what else comes out of it. Look, big shocker, turn one, lap one,
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton. I mean, I thought initially that's George's fault because he moved out, but it's kind of like that's George's privilege, to move out. He was right behind Max. He was about to come out, use the slipstream, come around, and Lewis just came in, and he had plenty of space
Yeah.
on the left side of him on the track, but he came straight in and didn't clip George, really hit him,
Yeah, well, they were
and
they
then
were
went
on
out. I mean,
different tyres, weren't they? And Lewis being on the soft tyres, he braked later because he had more grip, but he just cut across George. He had so much more track to the left-hand side, but of course we know there's less grip out there. For me, it's completely Lewis's fault. And he's taken the blame for it and admitted it. That's even without watching it. Initially he said, my teammate's just taking me out, but I think that was spur of the moment. Lewis's fault. To take your teammate out is the biggest no-no ever. So, of course, I'd love to see a video of me and my boys when it happened, head in hands, shouting at the television. But I thought George had a great race. And if he'd have kept going from second, who knows where he'd have been with those McLarens and with Verstappen at the very end.
I think that was a mistake. I mean, I understand it. With tyres, you think, oh, okay, the McLaren's going to catch me at some point. But what was it, 5, 6 laps left? I don't know. I think it was a bit of a bad call.
They,
George should have stayed out. It would have had a podium.
I think he had to come
If
in.
not second, it would have been third.
Yeah, no, I think George had to come in
Why?
at the end. Well, because of this 3 pit stop thing that's been brought in because of Pirelli. What's happened over the weekend, the tyre walls have not sustained the vibrations from these new curbs in Qatar. So everybody had to do a mandatory 3 stops in the race, and every tyre could only be used for 18 laps. So let's say they did 4 laps on a soft yesterday, they could only do 14 with that same tyre today, or a new tyre could do all 18 laps. So George had to come in and pit, I think, at the end. I think.
We ended up doing 4 stops. I mean,
You're right.
the
You're
first
right. He
one
did,
after the crash.
but it might be to do with the life of the tyre that he was on. But
Yes,
there was no
yeah.
way he was going to catch on any softs at all. You know, whatever it was, 17 seconds in 6 laps is
It
ridiculous.
was a lot.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't think there was an option to stay out because of this. It's unprecedented. This 3 pit stop tyres aren't holding up to it. Pirelli have just basically signed a new contract to see them through to the end of 2027. This weekend, it's all being announced as we speak, and these tyres aren't good enough for this circuit. I think it's a poor show, really, and I think it made for a bit of a predictable race because that you couldn't do any other strategy, really. It was. I think that's why we feel a bit damp about it, as it were.
Yeah, I think damp is a good word because, and I actually missed that whole point. I didn't know about the 3 stop thing,
Ah,
and that's the thing because there's so many rules, and there's always another rule, and this. I mean, the big thing I thought was about track limits,
yes.
and then now you've got it's just so much you have to think about. People think, oh, you just drive around, around, around.
Mm.
No, it's like there is so much to think about now. And drivers are questioning, engineers are checking in with drivers saying, "Oh, should we do that? What do you think?" Like what? What? No, no, you are in charge of strategy. You're sitting there on the pit wall. Like you've got it mapped out. You should call the strategy, but they often call drivers and go, "Well, what do you reckon about this? Should we do this?" And like, "Well, I'm trying to drive. Do you mind?" Um, yeah, I mean, so drivers and engineers and the hissy. I mean, the big hissy fit Stroll,
Yeah.
which happened earlier this weekend. What was all that about? Why did he get a
Well,
temper?
I think he's under real pressure, and I think Lawrence Stroll is probably under pressure as well from other people in the team. There's rumours around that Lawrence Stroll might be looking to sell the team. I've heard this weekend. We've said before in a previous
Really?
we've said
Ah,
before in a previous podcast that Lawrence Stroll. How do I make my son world champion? Well, I just buy a team and put him in it, make the best car, he wins it. And I think a lot of that bubble has been burst this year because they now have a car that can consistently get podiums and top 6 places, but there's only one driver doing it in that team. And I think reality is dawning in the Stroll family that this is a dream that has reached its peak, basically. And I love the fact that they've done, it's the ultimate, isn't it? Dad buys the team and
yeah.
son drives. But it's the family business. But I think they've gone as far as they can possibly go. But I think Lawrence Stroll and the money that's gone into that team, from buying it as Racing Point, making it Aston Martin, I think it's brilliant, and it would be a shame to see that happen. But I do think there's a reality about Lance Stroll has reached his limit as a driver, and I think he's feeling that pressure massively and pushing his his trainer virtually over. Talking to the
Mm.
press really, really nonchalantly. Come on, Lance. If you're gonna, you've got to dig deep here, mate, now, and really claw some integrity back. You've been confirmed for next season. So, but that doesn't mean anything, does it? You know, what we've seen with Nick de Vries and what talks of Perez and other drivers and Sargeant as well. But going back to track limits this weekend, Joe, again, you know, the rules are stay in the white lines. You know, these are the best drivers in the world driving between the lines, pushing them to the limits. But Gasly, 2 5-second penalties. Stroll, 2 5-second penalties. Albon as well. And
Albon?
so they've come.
Perez, I think.
Perez got 2 as well. That's right. So 10 seconds. Now Perez was lucky, and because of the other penalties, he's finished 9th now. But Stroll, Gasly, and Albon got knocked down out of the points. But I think we've got to say well done to Alfa Romeo, because an 8th for Bottas and a 10th for Zhou, 2 points finishes. So they kept their noses clean and drove a good race. I think they had a good strategy as well. They seemed to pit later than everybody else, so that you would always see them pushing up into the top 5 based on pit stops. But yeah, I think we need to say well done, Alfa Romeo.
Not often that you'd hear that, would it?
No.
You know, yeah, they're always these kind of. It's like one of those teams. I feel like with Alpha and Alpine, they're kind of those teams you kind of forget about. They're kind of sandwiched in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
You hear more about AlphaTauri or Williams or even Haas. Maybe they're just a bit noisier on social media, but those other teams just kind of blend in. That'll probably change once Ryan Reynolds gets involved with Alpine properly. But that's not about performance. Yes, I mean it was very strange to watch, because as we know, when you come into the pits and you know suddenly the leaders will jump down and then they'll come back up and then down. I mean, so the board gets all jumbled up. So to see Zhao up there and then Bottas, I mean Albon led a lap, didn't he?
He did. Yes.
It was a real jumble. But obviously it works its way out, and then the stronger teams finish well. And, you know, maybe Lance Stroll bought the wrong team, because McLaren...
Lawrence.
Oh, again, yes. Sorry, yeah. Lawrence Stroll. But McLaren, oh, my boys, come on.
Well, buddy, I think...
Well, podiums in a row. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Joe, I think with McLaren now, the thing I found really interesting is Max wasn't getting 10, 20, 30 seconds up the road. I think the biggest gap, and it was in the very last stint, was 9 seconds, but they had it down to 6 seconds at one point. And then right at the end, it sort of came into about 4 seconds, because obviously Verstappen was staying well within the white lines. Norris did seem to have a really good final stint and caught Piastri, but team orders and I think sensible play by Andrea Stella today, because Norris obviously wanted to have games, but they have now, I'm just trying to look at the constructors table. I've just jumped off the screen, excuse me 2 seconds, but the constructors standings, oh now I've clicked on the wrong thing, Joe. Right, here we go. So McLaren are now only 11 points behind Aston Martin. And only 2 races ago, that was like 50, 60 points. I think they are flying. And, you know, with Ferrari with only 1 car in the race today, what happened to Sainz? You know, a fuel problem or something with the car. That's not good enough. We've said this before. Ferrari, not good enough. Leclerc had an okay race for a top 3 team, but Aston Martin, again, Alonso was in there, not in there, and then had his off. You know, and Mercedes trying to take both cars out. So I think recovery drive from George, brilliant. But they are only 28 points ahead of Ferrari. It's really tight, this Constructors' Championship, from 2nd and 3rd, 4th and 5th. And as you know, as fans, we just follow the drivers. But the business end is the teams' Constructors' Championship. The money that the teams win from finishing second or third or fourth or fifth is massive. So we've got a lot to watch in the next 5 races.
It is mega money, and all these things. You know, you look at the amount of time that the cars spent on these curbs, and those curbs are brutal. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're like bigger than and chunkier than other curbs, but these are proper curbs. Like, so damage to the car all costs money. Um, a quick mention to Logan Sargeant. He,
Mm.
felt unwell. He was okay. The doctors checked him out afterwards, and he was okay. He said, "No, I'm fine, I'm fine." But he just genuinely felt unwell. I think the drivers were getting very dehydrated. A lot of them are opening their visors to try and get some air through. George Russell, actually, he was driving down the straight and had his hands like this just to get some
Yes, he
air
did.
to kind of come up. Bit of air conditioning, so that's a good trick.
Proper
But
Sunday
yeah,
drive that was.
I can, yeah, I can understand how they would definitely feel a bit unwell, and glad this one is over, because these are hot races. I mean, it's 31 degrees. You're in the car, you're in your suit and everything. I mean, by the time you go to drink your water, it's as hot as tea. You might
Yeah.
as well put a tea bag in there, really, because it cools it down. Nice cup of tea. But yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. So Logan Sargent, yeah, felt he had to retire. So yes, I mean, again, it wasn't an amazing race. I think George should have had a podium. He did so well to come from last to second for quite a good chunk of the race, and
Yeah.
certainly in the last stages. Um, I don't know. He probably felt I could nip in, the others could nip in too, but no, McLaren just kept up there. They were so consistent, and Piastri had a great race. Yes, Lando tried some games. He tried to say, "Well, look, I'm faster. I
Mm.
should probably take this place," but they're like, "No, what a great weekend for Oscar. I mean, this
Well,
is the stuff that dreams are made of
with
for
the sprint
rookies."
race yesterday, coming first in the sprint yesterday was just uh, brilliant to see a rookie, you know, finish
Mm.
a race. This sprint race, I'm still not quite sure what to make of these sprints, but it is a different format, gives us something else to talk about, and it's definitely given him another step of confidence because he seems so unassuming. His personality is very quiet and reserved, but he's got nothing to be quiet and reserved about. He's
Well,
making Norris be the best driver he's been, and the two of them are going to push each other and the team forward. Honestly, we're as close as we've seen any car to Max in now 2 years, pretty much. And
it is true. Yeah.
yeah, and I can't wait to see
No,
if
it
they
is.
can actually do it.
I want to come back to the sprint race because
Yeah,
I'm in two minds too, but I like it because you get an extra race, you know, and I do find practice boring. I do find it. That's the truth.
hmm
Friday practice, I know it's great to see the cars and you can see what they can do. But for I think your normal fan who's out there, it is a bit like, okay, what's it about? And that's why they brought in the sprint race to make it more exciting. But it's also, on the other hand, really confusing. What is this now? Is this the qualifying for the sprint, or is this for the race? But that doesn't matter about that. But I
it
thought that was supposed to give the grid places for next.
what
That
it's
is
done
is
for me,
confusing.
Joe, it's devalued qualifying for the race a little bit. And to have qualifying on Friday when a lot of people are still at work, Friday is an enthusiast's day at the track, really, for me. It's now become, race
That's
quali.
the day
And then
you go. Yeah.
yeah, and we then forget about it, and we've got this day that stands alone with the sprint shootout qualifying. Is it? What is it? And they're calling it SQ1, but it's not sprint qualifying, it's sprint shootout. And come on, let's get this together, guys. And there's been talk with the drivers about actually making this sprint shootout like 1 lap qualifying. And I think that would be nice to see that format back like it was about 15, 20 years ago, where they literally get an out lap, 1 lap, back in, and only one car is on the circuit at any time. I'd like to see that so that it's different, not just a little bit shorter than quali, but a different format itself. There's talk about doing reverse
Well, they are
grids in
playing.
championship order. That could be fascinating and go out and have some fun. But the points being
Yeah.
8 for a win and 1 for eighth place. So a win and second place is just 1 point. It's almost like, is it worth it? It, it, I just can't make my mind up. I have to say, this weekend has been the best sprint weekend we've had so far.
Yes. Yes. I
For
would say
sure.
the sprint's been more fun than the race.
I'd agree with
um,
you, actually.
but yeah, it's a funny
Mm.
one, isn't it? But look, I love the fact they're playing with the format. They're trying new things, and something will land and gel, and everyone is unanimous that, oh yeah, this is the format now. Um, I do like the fact we have a mini race and a big race, but also you said about points. That's not much of an incentive for the drivers. Well,
No.
what about, you've actually got um, to be mindful about the car because you can't crash that car because you're racing it tomorrow in the proper race
Yeah.
where there's proper points. So you've got to be, you're racing, but you kind of got to hold quite a bit back, I think.
And
So
we've seen
it
that,
takes a lot
haven't
of
we, this
skill.
weekend with Perez, massive great hole in the side of his car from his crash with Ocon yesterday, had to be fixed, had to start
Hmm.
from the pit lane. We've seen it with Sainz having his fuel problem overnight, which meant he couldn't start. These cars have got to be more durable than they've ever been. And we're limited with the amount of tyres they can use, with the amount of engines they can use and gearboxes they can use, and they're having to do more than ever. I'm surprised we're not seeing more retirements over the season than we have, really.
Mm. Yeah, I mean Logan Sargeant, I think holds the record at the moment for millions of dollars of damage done. I think it's up to about $4 million. Um, whereas Verstappen and Hamilton, well, Hamilton had hardly any, and now
Until
that's cost a
today.
few quid. But
Mm.
yeah, although I don't know if it's that much, but it's what a tire and probably more than we can see,
Yeah.
and there's plenty of debris. But yeah, no, I love the evolution of the race and the weekend. I think that's good. Yeah, things like reverse grid were talked about, especially during COVID, because they were kind of limited to the tracks they could do. They were like, well, do we just do Silverstone? Because they had to hit a certain number of races to fulfill the television contract commitments. That's
Yeah.
why they had to try and create a calendar, and they just did it behind closed doors with no fans. But they were thinking about doing, well, we'll do Silverstone this weekend, and we'll do reverse Silverstone next weekend, and then you can limit it and have what 8 races or 6 races, whatever it was. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Do we have another sprint shootout after this?
We've actually got a few. Now, I don't have a list of them, but I think we've got at least one, if not two. So that's something I think we can look at and chat about. I know we've got the United States Grand Prix coming up in 2 weeks' time. And I love the Circuit of Americas. Joe, have you been there? I've not been to that
Mm.
one yet.
I haven't been to that one, but my guys have. So we did a band at the Paddock Club,
Yeah.
which I was very excited about because it was our first gig in the US. And I wasn't there. I couldn't make it. I had another event I had to do.
And nor could I, Joe. I think you
So
talked to me
that's
about it before.
I did talk to you about
And
it. Yeah, I was like, "Can
yeah.
you go to the States?"
Well,
And actually, the same thing happened with Monaco with me as well. I was
yes.
going to go to Monaco. I had it all booked, and last minute, something happened. I couldn't go. So, and I sent our friend Alex on saxophone. He went
Yes.
and did the weekend, and that was amazing for him. Short story. We needed an extra sax player to go down to Monaco, and I need someone quickly. And put a shout out in the community. And this guy Alex came back and said, "Yeah, I love it, and I love F1." I met him down the pub the next day, had a quick chat, 5 minutes, and I could tell, musos can tell with musos. And I said, "Yeah, fine." And then the next day he was on the plane, and it was fantastic. And both of Darren and I've been mates with him since. But it's a shout out to Alex. That's my first shout out.
Yes. Shout
So
out to
to
Alex. And
so
and uh, and after doing
Alex
Portugal,
Chatters.
Yeah, after doing Portugal with you
Oh yeah.
and Chadders, he then came on and started playing sax on my Billy Joel Theatre show as well. So we've kept that relationship going. He's a good lad. So hi, Alex. Make sure
So,
you're listening.
and your Billy Joel Theatre show, I mean, where can people learn more about that and get tickets?
Well, it's called Uptown Joel. Let's do a little plug. And it's all based on the fact that I used to work for Billy Joel back in the early 2000s, in the noughties, and talk about my sort of journey through doing that with his Broadway and West End musical called Moving Out. And that we're playing Stratford in February, and then we're out on a tour in the autumn of 2024. So, yeah, Uptown Joel. Go and look for it.
Go and check out Uptown Joe. It's
Yeah.
fantastic, and Darren is brilliant in it because he's worked with Billy Joe as well, so he's kind of unofficially, officially endorsed. It's fantastic. Look, if you've got a plug or a shout out, before I wrap it up, I should ask Darren, do you have any shout outs this week?
No, we've done Chadders, and I'm happy with that. So let's
Good.
keep it
All
at
right,
that.
Chadders, Mr. Chadwick. You, yeah, if you want a sax player, check out Alex Chadwick on all the social channels. But yeah, so we're going to wrap it up. We are back for the USA Grand Prix at Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. So check us out for that. If you have any comments, please let us know downstairs here on the comment section. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the content and follow it on your podcast platform of choice. But for now, it's bye from me, Jolie.
And it's bye from me, Darren Reeves.
My camera just
Where
fell.
are you going? I love it.
We
You
can
are so
never end
tired.
the podcast.
You are so tired, Joe. I've really enjoyed this one. You watch this one back.
I had an event yesterday. I'm tired on this one. Apologies. But yeah, Darren, you did heavy lifting. Thank you. But yeah, so I just lost my camera. So yeah, one day we'll do like a normal, slick, professional ending, but I doubt
I
it.
like
This is too much
these
comedy.
endings. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, we'll see you
Cool.
next time. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.